Good morning. If you grew up in Erie in the 1960s around Christmas time, the name of one downtown Erie department store was absolutely magical. What was it? The Boston store, correct answer. And for those who remember, and I know you do, what was on the 5th floor of the Boston store? Toys, yes. You would watch cartoons on Saturday morning and you'd see all of these toys advertised, and you could go to the 5th floor of the Boston store and see these toys and pick up the boxes and look at them. And in the days before Christmas, who was waiting to see you on the 5th floor of the Boston store? Santa Claus, yes. You waited in line with other kids for your chance to sit on Santa's lap and tell Santa your Christmas list and have a picture taken to record this incredible historic event. It was a Christmas tradition, wasn't it? We would go on the Friday after Thanksgiving to get an early start and to ensure that Santa got an early start on our Christmas lists. And the geniuses in the marketing department of the Boston store created yet another tradition. Not only could you visit Santa Claus on the 5th floor, on certain nights before Christmas, between the hours of 6 and 8, you could actually call Santa Claus on the phone and give him your Christmas list that way. It was like an insurance policy. You're covered both ways. I did that for years. But when I was in the 6th grade, I was faced with a very, very difficult dilemma. Was I now too old to call Santa? And the other thing was, should I give it one more shot? And then the other thing was, if my classmates found out that this 6th grader called Santa, what would they say? I mean, after all, I was like a few short years away from shaving and having my voice go deeper. I agonized about this for days, this life-changing decision. On the last night of when you could call, with the clock running out, I said, I'm going to give it one more try. These were the days before cell phones and redial. So I had to physically dial up Santa's number every time I called using what they called a rotary phone. Now, you young people, later on today, I want you to go to Google and Google rotary phone so you can see what I'm talking about. Every time I dialed, I was getting a busy signal. And I would have to dial again and again. Time was running out. This is a lot of pressure on a kid. Suddenly, the phone started ringing. I was in there. I made it. I was going over my Christmas list in my head when I heard a kindly man's voice say, hello. I said, hi. And I gushed out my name and my Christmas list as if it were water coming out of a fire hose, starting with the chemistry set and the chemistry work table that I saw in the Sears Christmas catalog that year. I don't think I even took a breath. I just let it fly. When I was done, there was a pause on the other end of the phone, and the man asked, little boy, who do you think this is? And I said, Santa Claus. And then came the words that changed my life. No, I'm sorry. You have the wrong number. I quickly hung up. I started blushing. I'm probably blushing now. I was so embarrassed. I was stunned and devastated. The wrong number. What will become of me now? And that story has me thinking of Advent. It's a season in which we are to prepare for the coming of the Christ child, and a time when too often we dial up the wrong number and miss what the season can be for us. What does it mean to prepare? And how do we do this? We are busy. We rush. Some of us work ourselves into a frenzy, getting ready for Christmas, decorating, baking, cleaning the house, and all of this stuff. And Advent comes and Advent goes, and we are not changed. I think all of us are looking to connect with God in some way, especially now. Actually, we can do this anytime, but we have this gift of Advent that seeks to transform us into becoming more of the Christ we are celebrating. Here today, we come into this atmosphere in which we literally breathe in Advent, the banners, the colors, the Advent wreath, the readings, the music. The altar is beautifully decorated. Father Don is wearing a wonderful blue vestment. All of this can help set the tone for what God may want to be doing in us if we are aware and if we allow it. In these days of preparation, I ask this question: what is God trying to have born in you and me? The spiritual master Thomas Merton once said, "The Advent mystery in our own lives is the beginning of the end of all in us that is not yet Christ." And he says, this is surely a cause for joy. He's talking about transformation and change, maybe giving birth to something new. Giving birth and celebrating birth is a time for joy, is it not? And today we lit the candle of joy, the pink candle. Joy. Let's think about that. And to help, I've created a short guided meditation for us. And so I invite you to participate. So I want you to get comfortable where you are here in church, and those of you, our friends online, in your homes, you can join us too. Close your eyes for just a few moments. And let's take a few easy breaths together and think about joy. Take a slow breath in as you are able. Hold it there and breathe it out into the space in you and around you. And again, take a slow breath in as you are able. Hold it there and breathe it out into the space in you and around you. And now just listen to these questions that I have for you. Listen with your heart. This is just to give you a general sense of where joy is for you. Don't worry about remembering all of your answers. Avoid judging your answers, but pay attention to the first thing that comes up to a question. Here we go. Joy. What does it mean to you? Think of a time when you were actually joyful. What was it? And what was it like? What brings you joy today? If joy is not there for you, what would it be like to feel joy again? What is it that keeps you from being joyful now? And finally, can you come to a space in your life where you can at least accept a sliver of joy, or maybe even more? Now let's take a nice, slow, deep breath in as you are able. And as we do, let us breathe in joy. Feel what joy is like. And hold that joy in your heart for a few moments. And now slowly breathe out that joy into the space in you and around you. And sit with that for a moment or two. Now you can open your eyes, because I have some joyful news for you. The prophets of the Hebrew Bible spoke boldly to get the attention of their audience, which many centuries later includes us. Their mission, it was to wake us up to something. Sometimes the words came as a warning, other times they spoke words of hope. I was reading something recently by the late spiritual writer Rachel Held Evans, who passed away too soon 3 years ago at the age of 37. She said, the prophets believe that God is in the business of making all things new, of making all things right. It reminded me of this from Isaiah. Behold, I am doing a new thing. Now it springs forth. Can you not perceive it? In today's reading from Isaiah, we heard that when God shows up, the eyes of the blind shall be open and the ears of the deaf unstopped. Then the lame shall leap like a deer, and the tongue of the speechless sing for joy. For waters shall break forth in the wilderness and streams in the desert. A highway shall be there, and it shall be called the Holy Way. That is all very hopeful language spoken by prophets like Isaiah in their understanding of who God is. Rachel Held Evans said, the prophets were ready for God because they longed for God. They prepared for God because they expected God, and they recognized God because they knew God. Now, this made me think of a few questions for us as we walk through Advent. In what way or ways are we longing for God? How are we expecting God to show up for us? And are we able to recognize God moving in our lives? She went on to say, from the prophets, people knew that God favors the marginalized over the powerful, the weak over the strong, the poor over the rich. They knew that God hears the cries of the oppressed, that God never gives up, God always surprises, and God always shows up. To pay attention to the prophet, she said, is to align our dreams with God's dreams for the world and to live accordingly, to bet everything that God's justice will prevail and that love will win. Wow, talk about good news. God has a heart for those down on their luck. God has a heart for those hurting and in pain, those cast off, those who dial up the wrong numbers in life. Is that who God is for us? No matter what we are going through in life, it could be an illness, it could be difficult relationships and job and money issues and losing loved ones and grieving, whatever it is. Can we come to a place in ourselves where we see even a glimmer of hope and trust in a God who walks with us through it all, even to an outcome that may be different than the one we want? So back to the question, what is God trying to have born in you and me? The other night, I was invited to be one of about 15 people to help out at a healing service at Our Lady of Mercy Catholic Church in Harbor Creek. I've done this for a number of years. The church was pretty much filled, and I was so moved being in the presence of so many good people who in one way or another were hurting and vulnerable enough to ask for healing for themselves or someone close to them. One by one, they came to us for prayer and laying on of hands as part of the healing work. Healers spent about 5 to 7 minutes with each person who came forward. It was an emotional time for me. It always is. And it reminded me of some of what God's work is in our lives. One woman in particular stood out. She came to me, and through tears, she told me of this deep emotional pain that she was carrying because people close to her were dying of cancer. And as I placed my hands on her shoulders as part of healing work, I sensed in her this deep anguish, and I cried with her and all of those that she brought to healing that night. We closed with a prayer of hope. It reminded me of what I have come to know of my journey, that God cries with us when we hurt or grieve. God walks with us in times of uncertainty and doubt, and rejoices with us in times of our joy. Can we allow that kind of God to be born in us? And as we are healed, can we become healing for others? God comes alive for people when we are the hands and the feet and the heart of God doing the work of God. And that is how God shows up in the world. I sometimes think of the words of a popular hymn that reminds me of the name Emmanuel, God with us. Now think of it as God speaking these words to you. Do not be afraid, I am with you. I have called you each by name. Come and follow me. I will bring you home. I love you, and you are mine. May the candle of joy illuminate our way wherever it may go. May the light of joy burn brightly in our hearts in the days ahead. And in new and surprising ways, may God be born to us. Amen.